good afternoon out there in Facebook land. Thank you for tuning in for another Facebook Live presentation from your Spokane Woodcraft store. Today we're going to be talking about the Easy Wood line of turning tools. Now, I don't know how many turners we actually have watching out there, but if there are any and you haven't tried the Easy Wood tools yet, you may be very interested in what we're about to talk about. The Easy Wood turning tools is a line of turning tools that uses replaceable carbide cutters. And Joel, I don't know if you can zoom in on that little cutter there or not, but maybe we can give our viewers just a little bit better view of that. And so to replace this carbide cutter, it's a simple matter of loosening that set screw, rotating it a quarter turn to a fresh edge. If it's dull all the way around, simply take the set screw all the way out, put a fresh cutter on, tighten your set screw back up, and you're all set and ready to turn again. So it's a big improvement over traditional tools. At least in my opinion, they're an improvement because we've eliminated the need to sharpen these tools. You know, traditional turning tools are ground to very specific angles for very specific reasons. And if you are not able to consistently reproduce that bevel when you sharpen those turning tools, essentially every time you sharpen it, it's going to be a new tool. So it's going to cut a little bit differently, it's going to behave a little bit differently, and so you're going to have to start getting used to the tool all over again. And then in a couple of hours, when you go to touch up the edge on that tool, guess what? It's a brand new bevel again, and you're going to have to start that process all over. With the Easy Wood tools, you replace that carbide cutter. You never change the angle or the geometry of the tool in any way, shape, or form, but you have a brand new fresh edge. So the tool behaves the same way from beginning to end. That's a big benefit in my opinion. When I talk to people here in the store that are just getting started in turning, what I find is that a lot of these folks don't have the necessary equipment, or in some cases even the necessary know-how to effectively sharpen traditional turning tools. Now don't get me wrong, we will sell you traditional turning tools all day long. We've got a very nice selection of them, but once we get done picking out your turning tools, then we're going to want to take you to the sharpening aisle, where we will then discover that you need to spend another $200 to $300 on equipment to keep those tools maintained properly. So in my opinion, a new turner can do themselves a big favor by just starting out and learning with the Easy Wood line of tools. Now these tools are they are made in the United States. The shank of the tool is solid stainless steel. Again, the cutter head is carbide, sharp all the way around, and the handles are made from good old-fashioned American maple. So there's not a whole lot more American that I could say about Easy Wood tools. They are made here in the USA. I believe they are still being manufactured in Kentucky. Nice all-around tools. So let's get on to how we actually use these tools now that we have a little bit of background on them. You have three basic tools. You have the square one, which is referred to as the rougher. That's this one. It kind of takes the place of what would be called a roughing gouge. And then you have what's called the finisher, which has a round cutter on it that gives you a very clean, smooth, almost finished surface. And then you have a tool that's referred to as the detailer. And it has a diamond-shaped cutter on it, and it's used for creating small, intricate details, such as the grooves that you see in the handle here. Those could be created by the use of a detailer very easily. Now, while I've got these two tools in my hand, you can see that they are different sizes. Well, the Easy Wood tools actually come in 4 is it 4 or 5? Actually, it might be 5 different sizes. You have what they call the Easy Start tools, which are slightly lighter duty. These are very, very nice tools for pin turning and small projects, bottle stoppers, duck calls, things of that nature. They're nice, handy tools to have. They use the same cutters as their bigger brothers do, and just a little bit lighter duty tool is all. So we go from the Easy Start tool to what they call the Mini. Then there's a mid-size, which is slightly longer. There's a full size, which is longer yet, and then there's the Pro size. So I guess there are 5 sizes. So there are several different sizes of these tools available. Your best choice for what you need, you would need to examine the size of the lathe that you have. You're turning really big, heavy pieces, a lot of bowl turning, that kind of thing. And when you come into the store to look at these tools, we will be more than happy to discuss those issues with you to make sure that we recommend the right size tools. And make sure you get the best tool that's the most appropriate for your projects and your size lathe. Now the lathe that we're using today is a 12-inch swing. So either the mini size or the mid-sized tools would be more than appropriate for anything that you would turn on a machine this size. So again, let's go and talk now a little bit about how you would actually begin to use these tools. Now the first thing I want to point out is the tool rest. The tool rest is simply what you rest your tool on. That is the support surface that gives you the control that you need over the tools. Now with traditional turning tools, you want that tool rest as close to your workpiece as you can get it without the workpiece hitting that tool rest. With easy wood tools, because of the way they're designed, flat here on the back with just that small amount of bevel there, you actually want that tool rest a little further away from your workpiece. We're talking 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch very easily, and you'll still have very good support for your tool, and you'll be able to get that cutting edge right up where you need it. Now speaking of the tool rest and the cutting edge, when you are adjusting the position and the height of your tool rest, a really good basic rule of thumb is to start or is to position your tool rest, the height of it, and I'm going to rotate this piece around here so you can see we kind of gave you a little bit of a visual aid here. It approximates the center of the workpiece. So you would want your tool rest positioned at such a height so that when you put the tool onto the rest, that edge is going to be fairly close in alignment with the center of the workpiece. It's pretty simple to get it, so I'm going to rotate this back around. I'm going to put my tool on the tool rest, and lo and behold, somehow we managed to get this positioned pretty darn close to the center line of the work. Now again, this one is called the rougher, and so when you're starting out with a square piece of stock like this, you're going to want to use the rougher. That will begin to take the sharp corners off of your workpiece and begin to rough it into a round shape. So we're going to kind of show you here for just a few minutes anyway how the rougher works. We'll turn the lathe on, we'll apply the tool to the workpiece, we'll show you the cuts, and we'll go from there. Now I'm going to put my safety glasses on here. And any of you that have ever been in our store for a live demonstration or taken a turning class of some kind, you'll know that we believe in safety gear. Either wear your safety glasses, some people like to use a face shield, either one works. As you can see, the machine is now running. It's very, very quiet. There's really no need for special hearing protection, although if you wanted to wear it, it wouldn't hurt a thing. So, again, you want to use your tool in the level position, okay, in front of your workpiece. We're going to come straight in, and we're going to make a cut. We're going to contact the wood. And just go straight across. Very simple procedure. Again, you're holding the tool level to the floor. You're coming straight into your workpiece and making your cut. Now you can go one direction or the other. So if you wanted to, come across. And go back the other direction. The tool will cut either way. Now you can see just how quickly we turned those corners off. Obviously we're not all the way around yet because you can still see the line here. But we turned those corners down very, very quickly. So you can see we made a lot of progress in a very short amount of time there. Do we have any questions yet, Joel?
What's the handles made out of?
These handles are made out of maple, good straight-grained hard maple.
And that is all. No other questions at this time?
No other questions right now. All right. So again, folks, that's called the rougher. Now I'm going to switch over to the tool called the finisher. This is the one with the round surface. It's held the same way, level to the floor. And other than just a really small straight section there, we are just about round. Now, you're probably out there asking yourself, now I know he said that that finisher is going to give me a nice smooth surface. Yes, you are correct. I did indeed say that. However, in all fairness, this is a piece of pine. And pine is a very soft wood. And so it is leaving a fairly rough texture to it. In a hardwood, this would be very, very smooth right now. So please bear with us. Like I said, we are using a little piece of pine here. And so that's why you're seeing a little bit of a rough surface there. All right. So we're going to move on to the detailer. Now the detailer is a very interesting tool because there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. Again, it's another tool that you hold level to the floor, and it's just simply used to create detail. All right, so again, we're going to go straight into our workpiece, and you can see how very quickly it will create a groove. I can then use the same tool in somewhat of a, I guess you'd call it somewhat of a rolling motion. Somewhat the same way that you would use a spindle gouge. And we can very quickly and easily widen that groove, like so. We can take that little groove that we cut and very quickly and easily turn it into a design called a cove. Very quickly and easily. These tools are so easy to use. Now, I don't know if that's why they call them easy wood tools or not, but they are very easy to use. In fact, here in the store, if we ever get a chance to talk about the easy wood tools in person, one of the things that you will more than likely hear me say is that here is the long lesson on how to use easy wood tools. Tool rest, tool, level to the floor, straight in, make your cut. That's the long lesson on how you use Easy Wood tools. They really, really are that easy to use. It looks like we have another question.
Yeah, if you were on a fixed budget and you were just getting into wood turning, John, what would you suggest out of the entire line, and they could only buy one tool right now? What is the one tool you would highly suggest they get?
That is a really good question, and I'm going to repeat it, at least in the gist of the question, just to make sure that everybody out there heard it. The question was, if I am on a budget and I can only buy one Easy Wood tool, which one would I recommend? The one that I would recommend for you is the one called the rougher. And I say that because the rougher is the only tool in their lineup that actually uses more than one cutter head. You have the one like you see here that's square on all four corners, but they also have one that they call the R2. The R2 has a 2-inch radius that simply sweeps those sharp corners back, just a very small amount, making the tool just a little bit less aggressive. So for a new turner, that is a very, very good option for the rougher. And it really does kind of give you two tools, if you will, for the price of one. So that's a very good question. Whoever asked that out there in Facebook land, thank you for that one. Anything else?
You can touch on this now, or you can touch on that later, but you mentioned on that particular rougher there are two heads you can put on it. There are actually three. Can you talk about the negative rake?
Oh, sure. The negative rake. That's a fairly new addition to their line. It has been around, I think, about a year to a year and a half, maybe. And on that particular one, the bevel runs the opposite direction. Those tools are very, very well suited to man-made materials, extremely hard, dense woods, things like African blackwood, cocobolo, linum vitae, woods of that nature. Those negative rake tools are very, very well suited to that kind of use. So good question. All right, so we've covered some of the basic tools that are in the lineup. Again, we have the rougher, the finisher, and the detailer. But they also have, if I can pick one up here without making too much noise, they also have a line of what they call hollowing tools. Now, hollowing is a little bit different. I'm trying to make this so that we get the best view on the camera here. Can you keep up there, Joel? Sorry, folks. Okay, so they make a line of what they call hollowing tools. Now, hollowing tools are very, very well suited to things like vases, urns, that type of turning, all right? Joel is over there just cracking up, folks. I wish you could see him, I really do. Joel, turn the camera on. No, I'm just kidding. So the hollowing tools are very well suited for that type of operation. Now, I'm gonna hold this upright here, Joel, because I wanna be able to point out how the tool is cut at an angle, all right? Now, what that does is as it narrows down, the cutter, the edges of this cutter are more exposed than if that shank was straight, okay? Now, what that lends itself to is getting way down deep inside a vase or an urn so that you can work the very bottom and then come back up the side of that workpiece. You'll also notice, and we'll turn it this way this time, that the tools are marked for what they call a maximum overhang. Now, the maximum overhang is simply how far down inside can I get, how far over the tool rest, or how far out from the tool rest can I safely use this tool. So again, if we imagine my hand as your tool rest, with that maximum overhang, you can see how deeply you can get into that workpiece. It's quite a bit of room. Now, in addition to the straight hollowing tools, and this one is still in the container, but I think you'll be able to see it okay. They have what they call a gooseneck. Can you get that okay, Joel?
Let's bring it down a little bit.
A little
bit. Perfect.
Is that good?
Yeah, that'll be perfect.
So you can see that there's a very deep gooseneck, which is this portion just right up here. There's a very deep gooseneck to this tool, and it's used for the same purpose, getting really deep down. But now you can come across the bottom, and come back up the side like this. The other nice thing about a gooseneck is if you have an overhanging top on your workpiece, and I don't quite know the best way to try to illustrate this, but if you have an overhanging top, you can come kind of like this. I don't know how much sense that's going to make for you folks out there, just using my hand to illustrate that. But this will let you do the inside of that overhanging top, whether that be on a vase or an urn, either one. Now the other tool that I want to show, and we'll hold it this way.
I'm going to zoom in on that, folks.
Zoom on them, okay. Now this is Easy Wood's version of a parting tool. Now a parting tool is used simply as its name implies to part one piece of your work from the other. And you could use a saw for the same thing. You're just simply cutting the two pieces apart. That's what the parting tool does. Now, I'd love to be able to show you this, but this is actually off of our showroom wall, if you will. So it's not a tool that I can actually demonstrate for you. But if you were to use this, if we were to show you how it actually works, it works in the same way. You hold it level to the floor and you simply go straight into your workpiece. Now, here is your maximum overhang mark right here. I'm trying to make sure I get this in line with the lens there so that you can see that well enough. Being this far back from the actual tip, it's about 2 inches. So with this tool, you can part through something approximately 4 inches in diameter. That's a pretty good sized piece. So the parting tool, very, very nice tool. Now, we're going to kind of move on to something just a little bit different here.
I do have one more question.
Oh, certainly. One more question.
So, let's say you're in your shop and you're turning and all 4 sides are dull, and you loosen up the little screw and you take your piece off, and you know you're coming to your local Woodcraft to buy a new piece. You lost it. It fell on the floor, you swept it up. How do you know which cutter you need? What's a quick reference for that?
You simply look at the shank of the tool. I don't know how many of you heard that question. We'll repeat that question for you just in case. You've come to your tool is dull all the way around. You've come down here to the Woodcraft store to get a new one so that you can replace it, but you've lost the cutter. So how do you know which one to get? Every single tool is marked right here on the shank of the tool with a number. This one is the CI2. So your cutter head would be a CI2 square, CI2 SQ, or a CI2 R2, which would be your 2-inch radius, or a CI2 N, which would indicate that that is your negative rake, and that also comes in the square or in the radius version. So that's the easy way to know. Boy, that word comes up a lot when you're talking about these tools, doesn't it? Easy. That's the easy and quick way to know what replacement cutter you need to buy for that particular tool. Now, I had planned to show you a little bit of work on a piece of man-made material, but unfortunately I don't have a knockout bar unless Joel can find one. Joel's going to go find us a knockout bar so that we can remove this, this drive center from the headstock of the lathe.
What's your favorite tool?
My favorite tool? Oh my goodness. My favorite easy wood tool would probably be the finisher. Thank you. There we go. Joel found a way to get himself on camera after all, didn't he?
Yeah, but it was just probably my shirt.
All right. Oh, we're gonna have a tragedy over here. Pardon me, folks. I made a lot of noise there. I didn't really mean to. Thank you, Joel. Oh, the wonders of live TV. You gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right, so this is a piece of a material called Truestone, which is a man-made material. It's a simulated stone type material. Really cool stuff to work with. Set that aside, put on the...
What's it composed of?
It is 85% resin, or 85% stone, pulverized stone, and 15% resin. It's a neat material to work with. So we're going to mount our pin mandrel here. Make sure everything is good and snug here. We're going to double check. Well, I couldn't have done that much better if I'd actually tried to. Double check the height and position of our tool rest. Clean up our work area, make sure we keep a safe work area. Let that come up to speed there. A little bit of squeal from our live center. Pardon us for that. Tighten that up a little bit. All right, so again, what I'm using here is the tool called the finisher. This is the one with the round cutter head on it. And we're going to use it exactly the same way on this man-made material. Now your processes with this kind of material are pretty much the same. And now, Joel, if you can kind of zoom in a little bit on this surface here, I want everyone to be able to get at least somewhat of an idea of how smoothly this tool will cut on a nice hard material. Unlike that piece of pine that we were using earlier, you'll see, hopefully you can see anyway, that these surfaces are very clean, very smooth, and that is simply from the action of the finisher. All right, so that's just a little bit on some man-made material. Now, folks, I would like to make sure that you are aware that if I were turning in my shop, obviously I would have my safety glasses on, but I would also be wearing a dust mask, especially when working with material like this. As you could probably see, it does kind of kick up a little cloud of dust. You really don't want to breathe that stuff in. You really don't want to breathe in the wood dust and chips and so forth. So I always do wear a mask when I am turning. For purposes of our demo today, a mask makes things very, very difficult. So that's the only reason that I don't have one on right now. So, any other questions?
None at this time.
None at this time. All right. Well, folks, I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon. We do appreciate it. Again, this has been a Facebook Live presentation from your Spokane Woodcraft. Thank you and have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much, everyone.